morning, class.
Good morning.
Good morning, Professor Brooks.
Today, it's Mr. Brooks to you. Today we are going to learn about Claude McKay. Would you like to split out, please, so we can start right there. Would you like to present for us? Thank you. This is Claude McKay by Zachary Todd Brooks and Chandler State.
The first two.
Two to the left, right.
Another one, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They're like, he was born in Clarendon, Jamaica on September 15, 1889. His father and mother, stepmother there, were both Malagasy and Ashanti heritage. He was the youngest of 11 children. McKay was sent away at a young age to his oldest brother, who was a school teacher, so he could receive the best education as possible. When he was only 10, he started writing his poetry. In 1906, he went to a trade school to learn more, but an earthquake totaled the building. Walter Nichols, an English professor, became the role model for Claude McKay. When he immigrated to the United States, he was a poet and had written songs in Jamaica and on set. Wait, hold on. Let you guys write some stuff down.
I'm really reading.
Grace, if you can't see, you can come up here if you need to. Or just go on the presentation on your computer.
So he was born in Jamaica. He was in his 30s during the Harlem Renaissance. What are some other key points to what you have up there?
He was the youngest of 11 children. That's a lot of children.
Oh, man.
He was the only one to be sent to his brother for education too, while the rest of them didn't. So.
Okay, so he was one who got out of Jamaica and the family. Not that that was a bad thing, but that says something about his character and his determination.
Is everybody ready?
No.
Not quite. Not quite.
What do you mean he went to trade school to learn more? More of what?
More poetry, English, and all that stuff.
Okay. Scratchy.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next.
Alright, college life for McKay. He enrolled at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama with an intention of studying agronomy when he learned the harsh realities of American racism. Then, from there, he attended Kansas State University in Kansas.
Why would he have learned the harsh realities of racism once he got to America?
Because people were prejudiced against the blacks. White people were prejudiced against the blacks.
And coming from Jamaica, did he have any of that?
No.
Not too many white people in Jamaica, especially in the early 1900s.
So had they never seen white people before?
That could be.
Could be. But he definitely didn't have that different race animosity or prejudice or tension at all that he ever had to deal with.
Oh, no, that never happened. The poem,
And this is one of his most famous poems.
a full screen in it.
There.
Thank you.
We need the.
Oh yeah, the volume. Courtney, could you turn the volume up there? There you go, thank you.
You're getting irritated.
If we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and penned in an inglorious pen. While around us bark the mad and hungry dogs, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs. If we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and penned in an inglorious spot. They're going round. This is looping. I'm just going to read the entire poem, but it's looping, so. Can I go there? Yeah, if you need to.
Why do they have those neck things? Keep them in line.
Yeah, and they also had, that was a yoke so that they could put things, hang things on it. So it was, but it was dual purpose for the hanging things on it and carrying things, but definitely to keep them in line. Zach, I did add one of Claude McKay actually narrating it. What's that? If you wanted to do that. You don't have to, but it's there if you want to.
Luke, can you put your phone away, please? Thank you. Sorry.
I was making sure it was on vibrate.
Can I put your away, please? The way it's not out. Thank you.
Since it's repeating, you don't have to watch the whole thing if you don't want to.
Yeah, I would like to. I would like to watch that. No, I think we shouldn't. If you get the picture. Claude McKay, Harlem Shadows. We are gonna, as a huge group here, we are gonna analyze this and got the word for it.
And
Imitate?
Yeah.
interpret
Interpret.
what
that's it means.
what the poem means.
Alright, so Grace, if you'd like to read the first one, please.
Zoom in on it.
You can do Command plus and on the keyboard. Please and thank you.
Wait, could you just get up?
Grace, you're just being
please?
so nice.
We'll have everybody do that way.
Like I just stand up there.
Stand up and come up here and actually get in with the text. Thank you. And somebody else will do this too, so it's okay.
I hear the halting footsteps of a lass in Negro Harlem when the night lets fall its veil. I see the shapes of girls who pass, bend and barter at desire's call. Little dark girls who slipped, who in slippery feet go prowling through the night on the street.
Could you please call on somebody?
What is a lass?
Like a dog,
Well,
like Lassie.
lassie, Lassie and Laddie. A Lassie, we think of Lassie, the dog, was a girl. Laddie would be a boy. But a lass is a young girl.
Can you pick somebody to answer that?
Paige.
Come up here.
Through the long night until the silver break of day, the little gray feet know no rest. Through the lone night until the last snowflake has dropped from heaven upon the earth's white breast. The dusky, half-clad girls of tired feet and trudging, thinly shod from street to street.
Who is he?
Stern, harsh world that in the wretched way of poverty, dishonor, and disgrace has pushed the time timid little feet of clay, the sacred brown feet of fallen grace. Pardon me, the weary feet
Oh,
in Harlem, wandering from street to street.
no. Since you love that so much, would you please annotate the rest?
I call my time.
Annotate the
I'm
top one.
trying to, because my computer didn't work at first, so I'm still
Oh,
trying.
help.
Come up here and
I'm
analyze the top one, please.
What do you think it means?
Come up here and do this, please. Thank you. Just analyze the top one, please. I don't know what it means in your own words. You don't know. Just look into it. Okay, what's the last? We just explained this if you were listening. You're still right. Last is a young girl.
So who do you think the speaker is talking about? Okay, young girl, yep, but what more specifically can you get from that first stanza? What's she doing? Where is she? What's her situation? You want to call, Tyler, you want to call on Grace?
Grace.
Thank you. Please go up to the front here. Wherever
I was thinking you might have a conversation with
Yeah,
Grace.
that's what I was thinking. Well, they hear the footsteps of a girl in Harlem when like it's dark, so then bending batter at Desire's call, she's like prostitute trying to make a way.
What is that line about Desire's called bend and barter? To bend and barter. What is to barter? If you barter for something.
Yeah, she's a little better.
Like a tree.
Mhm.
Like to do whatever.
You might barter on the price of something at a garage sale.
Bargain?
Deal.
You're dealing, you're trying to get a price for something, for Desire's call. Does that support Grace's interpretation that this little girl is a prostitute?
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's on the down. Yes, you need to call him someone. You think that he's-
Sorry. What? I'm not reading. I'm not reading.
You don't have to read, you just have to annotate.
I'm not animated.
It's fun.
Interpret. Come on.
It's fun.
Interpret what that means.
I'm heads up in place.
Little dark girl who in slippered feet go prowling through the night from street to street. If she's answering Desire's call, bartering for Desire's call, street to street at night,
She's probably trying to get away.
she could be getting away. What would in Harlem, and think of the title too, Harlem Shadows. What would she be getting away from in Harlem in the 1900s? What would those shadows metaphorically be talking about?
Color.
Could be colored people, could be white people. Shadows are, we think of scary, dark, scary things in their lives, bad things.
would you come up here and analyze this one? Come up here and do that. Not from the stage, though. Up here.
Everyone has to go there and read. I don't have to read it, I gotta analyze it.
Alright, you two. You got your corner.
I'm not really sure.
What's she doing? What's happening?
She's trying to get away, or appears.
It's a dream or something, I don't know.
Could be a dream. Is that what you said?
The dream or the dreams or something.
Could be a dream. And she's trying to get away. Why would young girls in Harlem, young black girls in Harlem, want to get away? Why would they be dreaming of getting away? What might be happening?
It's more of like an adult era. It's like all the partying and stuff. It wasn't really for kids.
Oh, so expound on that. What would specifically? What would she be getting away from them then?
Basically how they live. Right?
Meaning in a bad way? They're living in a bad way?
Well, it
Or-
might not necessarily be bad, just not great for sexual
For-
to grow up
oh.
in.
Okay, good.
Alright.
Could be.
Kate, if you'd like to come up and do the last one for me, please.
I got it right here.
We'd like the whole class to scare you.
It's calling for participation.
Which part?
If you come up here, Joe would be glad to tell you.
Which part?
I'll tell you when you get up there.
Hey, just do it.
Shut up, Ashley.
Hey, 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 hey. We got grumpiness going on today. Woo.
We're all
Sitting there is not
Yeah, and
bad.
Grace is all please and thank yous today.
Grace is in a good mood and everyone's grouchy.
The bottom one right here, like, just so you know.
The bottom
It's so
stanza.
cold out.
The whole thing?
Just do it. Just whining about it.
No.
Stern, harsh word. It means poverty, dishonor, disgrace.
Those
Thing.
Guys, I like to focus on.
In the Harlem
I'm
Renaissance.
so
Guys, come on.
going through some
I'll put you in the
bad
corner,
times,
keep
but
it up.
trying to get over it.
Okay, what was that, Kate?
Trying to get through like bad times.
Okay, and what are some of the bad times that he actually tells us about?
Poverty, dishonor, and disgrace.
Yeah. In the wretched way of poverty, dishonor, and disgrace. And feet of clay, why would they be feet of clay?
Her skin, the color of like
Okay,
clay
Or they're
could-
walking around with no shoes on. And
Okay, and what do we think of clay? You artists. You mold it. It can be molded. Yes, clay in literature is oftentimes a metaphor for our lives that can be molded. It can be so much, and yet it can break. When it's hardened, it breaks. And so these little feet of clay, we think of a young girl who's being molded into something, and what's happening to her? How is she being molded?
by the racism and everything that's going on in that era.
And she's being molded into that not only the racism, but the poverty and the dishonor, the disgrace, everything.
We're all ready for the next slide. There's one. These are sites we got some information.
Okay.
I think that's all.
Okay.
Right.
Click on the E3 tab. There you go.
So all of these.
Well, you can, if you want to do, there's one, the introduced and recited by Claude McKay. You could do Harlem Shadows since we just watched, or since we just read that one.
Harlem Shadows first.
That's actually a Prezi that you'll have to go through. I forgot.
How do
And then hit the arrow that's at the bottom, black tab or bar. If you want to, you can skip over that if you want to, or if,
Skip over it. Would you like to read some? Yes, I'm done.
Harlem Renaissance was an expression of African American culture that was resulted from the Great Migration. Writers, artists, and musicians began to produce highly original works dealing with African American culture.
Harlem Shadow.
so that's what you just read.
Yeah. Do I need to read that again? Does anybody need me to read that again? Or do you get the full effect?
I think we're good.
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the honesty. That was my side. This is your side.
Poetry terms, imagery. I see the shapes of girls who pass to bend and barter at desire's call. Personification. Through the long night until the last snowflake has dropped from heaven upon the earth's white breast. Repetition from street to street.
So each stanza ends with that street to street. The imagery that you can see of the little girl, how he describes the little girl, the metaphor you would add to these poetry terms, the metaphor of the feet of clay, and a number of other metaphors that he uses in there.
Theme. Harlem Shadows describes the issue of prostitution in Harlem among young African American girls. Claude McKay touches on the idea that there is not much out there for his race, and that it is of the world's doing that many young girls fall into prostitution and endless nights that come with the lifestyle. Yes, you were, Grace. Thank you for doing that. Your turn.
All right.
That one.
Yep.
Okay. Which one is this one?
Well, the one introduced
That one?
and recited by Claude McKay, you could do that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't remember which one's
Or the one explained is good too.
Yeah. Is it ready?
If We Must Die is the poem that makes me a poet among colored Americans. Yet frankly, I have never regarded myself as a Negro poet. I have always felt that my gift of song was something bigger than the narrow confining limits of any one people and its problems.
And you can hear his
Even though many
Jamaican
of my
accent.
themes were racial, I wrote my poems to make a universal appeal. When If We Must Die was first published in 1919, it was denounced by many conservative white leaders as evidence of a new spirit among Negroes. Senator Henry Cabot Lodge read it into the records of Congress. But times change, and so I was not at all surprised when during the Nazi-era blitz on Britain, an English anthologist requested the use of If We Must Die for an anthology of verse. But I was surprised by what happened when I turned on my radio one morning in 1944. A commentator was telling about the death of a young white American soldier on the Russian front. The commentator went on to say that the youth was a lover of poetry, and he proceeded to read one of 5 poems which had been discovered on the dead youth's body.